All right. Welcome
Thank you.
this evening. If you're here, I just want to send out a quick appreciation, everybody. We have over 100 people now that signed up here with us on this live stream account. And so if you know anybody that wants to join up to where we're going to be doing discussions and we're going to have people on, and we're, especially after the primary, we're going to do more interviews. Send them over here. If you want to join in the discussion here, the live discussion with Mr. Cameron, you can just jump on in. We'll answer any questions. We'll read the comments. You can tag people there, and I'll send them requests real time so we can get them in here. And I appreciate everybody that has been interacting with us. It's actually been pretty good. I've received a lot of good feedback about it, and I think by now people know what we're doing here is not a real agenda. This is just a place to talk, place to ask questions. It's laid back. There's no, there's nothing going on here. So we were going to welcome Mr. Mike Cameron tonight.
Good evening.
And he's from District 1. He's the incumbent. And so we're going to take it away here, Mike. Go ahead and let's just talk. Tell us about yourself, where you're from.
All right. I started in Walker County. I used to live over in the Peach Orchard on Gale Street. And my mom and the dad divorced. And so back in the mid-'60s, I moved to a place called Lookout Valley. And grew up in Lookout Valley, and graduated from Lookout Valley High School and UTC, and I worked for Blue Cross, that big bad insurance company, and for about 32 years. So then I got involved in Walker County. I used to be chairman of the party here, worked school volunteer and stuff like that. Then I ended up running for office and winning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. So District 1, tell us where the district actually covers.
Okay.
I know it's changed a little bit.
It's changed, yeah. We added Lafayette, most of the Lafayette area. We have Kensington and the area down the Cove, all Lookout Mountains in Georgia, Rossville, Chattanooga Valley, and it goes around towards High Point. There's a little dip in there to make the populations equal. When we redistrict, every district had to be 60,000 people, so they had to go and get a few people there, little places. But that's for the most part.
Okay.
In Dade County, I have all of Dade County. I better not leave out Dade County. Yeah, I can't leave out the independent state of Dade.
All right, good deal. So you have Lafayette now.
Yeah.
All right, and so kind of tell us a little bit of. We know each other. We've met a few times. I had you speak last year at our May 5th
Rally down here at the park.
What have you seen in the last couple of years? I mean,
it's been interesting going because I used to do regulatory work with Blue Cross, so I did a lot of government work. But now the whole dynamic's kind of changed with COVID and that whole mess with COVID and trying to restrict people's rights. And so I went down right in the middle of a mess basically, and got in there and. We were wearing masks, and I was in the balcony. I went down on the floor last year, so getting used to that, and it was a pretty tense situation there. Our friends on the other side of the aisle didn't like the fact that we were working on election reform, and so I got called Jim Crow 2.0. I got called, you name the names, and we got called every day. So we just went and did our jobs. There were days where they'd lay down on the sidewalk and we'd have to walk through them, and they wanted us to step on them, obviously. And one night they raised their right arms and we had to walk under them, and those kind of things. But it's an interesting experience. I tried to spend as much time as I could to learn the process of how the whole thing works. You think you know something when you get down there, but you really don't. You got to, I didn't know for a long time they had a bathroom outside the chamber there. It's like, you just don't know.
Right.
And finding out stuff like that. So you're learning the process and learning the people, learning where to go. You get committee assignments and you start going to committee hearings and stuff and learning how to interact. And there's no real book that says this is how you do all this stuff. It's like, there you go.
Gotcha.
And you jump in. So.
I've told this story a great many times about. You told me about losing your cell phone, or somebody lost their cell phone.
I lost my cell phone. We had been in there's a office building called the Sloppy Building. It's one of those towers down there, and we've been over there for a caucus meeting, which is all the Republicans in the House got together, and so we started walking back, and I was walking with Jay Collins, who's head of Homeland Security. They passed the gun bill out of that committee.
Right.
And so Jay and I are walking back, and the people around us, and somebody had a dog, and here they came across the protesters. And so I jumped, and I really shouldn't have jumped behind the barrier. I should have stood there and let them hit me, but
Right.
jumped behind the barrier. Next thing I know, I don't have my phone anymore. So I'm supposed to speak at the Republican Party that night in Walker County. So it's pouring rain. I'm soaked. So I get back to Fort Hill, Florida. I stop at Verizon, buy a phone, program the phone, and then show up, speak, and then I have to drive back down there because I have to be at an early morning meeting. So that was an interesting experience. But we have good protection. We have the SWAT team from the Georgia State Patrol.
Okay.
They have dogs. They have automatic weapons, and they pretty well patrol the perimeter now. The city of Atlanta gave us the street there in front of the office building, between the office building and the Capitol. And so they pretty much patrol it. They've taken, put a wall or put a fence around the Capitol. Then they built a command center up there where they, a brand new command center. So the Belgian Malamute, whatever kind of dog that is, looks like a German Shepherd. They patrol out there. They check the building in the morning for bombs and all those kind of things. But that's what we live.
Right. It's surreal.
Yeah, and we have to take our badges off if we leave the Capitol area because they're afraid somebody will attack us.
We'll see you. Okay.
Yeah, so they attack us.
I hope everybody's hearing that. I've talked to a lot of people that don't realize that the fences around capitals and how dangerous that it's became. And I know that they're I guess labeled somebody like me an extremist, but I'm not trying to break into the Capitol.
No, they're not. No, and a lot of it was just these folks, BLM and Antifa.
Sure.
And they had one guy had weapons. He had an automatic weapon one day, and he got gone. But you don't mess with those dogs. I learned real quick. You don't pet them, and you don't mess with them.
Right.
Because they'll take you down.
So tell us about the committees that you're involved in.
Okay, I'm on labor, which is an interesting committee. We deal a lot with labor law. I'm on budget oversight, which doesn't mean as much, but as it says, it's an oversight committee to look at the things in the budget and what goes on and what happens in the process, some things related to finance and things like that. But the majority of my work I do is agriculture because in Walker County, $70 million a year business, agriculture, and I enjoy it. Our chairman, Robert Dickey, owns Peach Farm, and we got a lot of rural farmers on there, live in South Georgia and some other places, and we got some, and the Democrats that are on the committee, a lot of them are around there, Atlanta, and they're interested in farming, urban farming. So we spent a lot of time looking at farm issues. This year, we passed a big bill called the Freedom to Farm Act. It ended up being called Freedom Farm. And what it does is people move from the city to the country and they go, man, I just don't like the smell. Or I don't like this. And they sue farmers and tie up their resources. Right. So we try to help farmers by not having nuisance lawsuits.
Sure.
Those kind of things. We also passed a bill, it's kind of interesting. 40% of the produce that our farmers raise in Georgia goes to waste.
Really?
Yeah, it is. So we passed a food bank bill, which is going to allow, all these people that don't have food or don't have real good food. What we set up is like Chattanooga Food Bank serves this area. They can buy this food at a discount price. Say a blueberry. Blueberry, it's got a crack in it. You can't sell it as first rate to the grocery store. But it's still good to eat. So you take that and you sell it to the food bank and they can give it to people who need food. So children, for example, that don't get a lot of vegetables, they can get fresh food, fruit and vegetables that way. So we passed that. We also passed a bill, I think something that's real important is when I was a kid, we all learned how to do a garden, okay? Now children, they think food comes from the grocery store. Thank you very much, Stacey Abrams. And, but we're going to allow, if schools want to do it, they can teach agriculture in elementary schools. Like Rossville Elementary has a wooded area for the kindergarten right now that they go out and they work and do stuff and play. But schools like that could teach gardening. They could teach just how children could raise the vegetables. When I was a kid in elementary school, this goes back a long ways, back to the 60s. But we would get an empty carton, like a milk carton, and put dirt in it, and then we'd put a lima bean in it, and then the lima bean would grow up and then we could plant the lima bean.
Yeah.
So it's the same principle but a lot bigger. So agriculture, and we also look at consumer affairs. We had a Democrat that came up with a bill, and she wanted to have dog restaurants. There's a company that has dog restaurants.
I've heard
keep the
of
dog
before,
outside. Yeah, you keep the dog outside, and you feed them hamburger patties or something like that. But the state health department was like, yeah, if you get into that kind of mess, I shouldn't say mess, but
Sure.
it can create a bad situation.
Yeah.
So agriculture is very interesting.
Right.
And so our bills got signed, and a lot of us went down to a place called Muzella, Georgia. It's spelled Macella, but it's Muzella.
Okay.
And the governor signed these 3 bills, and Chairman Dickey's peach farm, and so we got to see the peach farm and the strawberries and all the stuff. And it's just interesting because I interact with a lot of farmers in Walker County, down in the Cedar Grove area.
Right. Right.
My friends grow vegetables, or they raise chickens, or they raise cattle.
Right.
And there's a lot of interaction and work with that.
Okay.
And we had a number of farmers that came to us and wanted to sell raw milk, and it's become a little bit of an issue because some people don't want the government interfering with them raising selling their milk to consumers. But a lot of farmers, and it's not corporate farmers, these are just regular farmers, they want to be able to sell to consumer, and they understand they're going to have inspections and all that stuff. So July 1st, I believe that you're going to be able to sell raw milk to.
Okay.
So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've heard a little bit about the raw milk today.
Yeah, and the raw milk today. But a lot of people drink raw milk around here and stuff.
I don't think I think I've tasted it before, but it's
Yeah.
not something I drink regularly.
Yeah, there were people against it, like the Children's Hospital in Atlanta was against it, and those people. But all these farmers are coming and saying, "Look, we need some extra income. We need extra income. Our income's down." And the Georgia dairy, the number of dairy farms in Georgia has really dwindled.
Right.
And so they're trying to figure out some way to generate some revenues for them. Even if it's enough revenue for if the regular farmers to go buy seed, or a few $100s or a few $1,000s,
Right.
it will help them
Sure.
their revenue.
Especially right now with
Yeah.
inflation. Good Lord.
Good Lord, that's a mess.
That's awesome. You were the one that kind of schooled me a little bit about agriculture. I didn't realize I knew we had agriculture, but I never knew the percentage in this area.
Well, I got involved too. Last year, Mackenzie Boysford and Jana Hickson rebranded, I guess, the Walker County Farmers Market,
Okay.
and brought it back. And I worked with them a lot to try to help promote them. And that thing's taken off like gangbusters. They're doing great business, and it's an outlet for all the people in Walker County that do something. Like we have a guy that raises sheep and has sheep cheese. And
I've
goat
heard
cheese,
that.
and some goat cheese and different things like that. And some people, and we have Dalton Green from over in Catoosa County raises cattle, and he'll bring his meat, his steaks and stuff over. So it's a place for people to meet and talk about agriculture issues and things like that.
Good.
We're also working right now with Ridgeland High School. We got some money put in the state budget. They like to show goats. The people from the ag girls from Ridgeland came down to the Capitol and met with Senator Wilson and talked about, we got this proposal. We like to show goats and do show cattle. So hopefully we're going to help them, at least in part, be able to build a little place where they can show animals
Right.
and teach them more.
Good. I know, just thinking about what you're talking about, Saddle Ridge has sort of a forest area, their school where they do
That's very
some gardening and
Yeah.
some flower planting, and then of course I see the goats over here at the high school, so it's really, it must be taking off.
Yeah, I think it is. And,
That's good.
so we want to promote that as much as possible.
Good. Let's see. Oh, we got some comments. All right, good. Thank you, Bunny, for sharing this. I know it's this wasn't really planned. It was my fault. I fell asleep and didn't get back with Mike, or otherwise I would have promoted it earlier. But we'll be passing it around and getting it all the groups. So let's talk just a little bit about Second Amendment, right?
Yeah.
I think we've well established that it's no more important than any other amendment in the Constitution, but it's the fabric, right?
It's a fabric, and I think in the legislature we took way too long. My friend Steve Tarbin had been working on this for 8 years, and it just never would go anywhere.
Right.
And I think it may have been because it was election year. I don't know.
Right.
But a lot of us have been pushing for this. I signed on to one last year, and it sat in committee, and then this one. this one started moving, and we had hopes it was getting passed, and it got jumbled around. These committees look at these bills and they'll say, okay, we'll pass it out, but we need to wait and do this or do that.
Right.
And it took time, and Georgia gun owners got frustrated, and they were chasing a certain senator around the Capitol,
Right.
and things like that. But we got it done,
Right.
Our bill was named the John Meadows bill, which ended up being the bill that ended up passing the Senate. Representative Meadows was from Calhoun. He died of cancer a couple of years ago, and he was always a 2A advocate. So Chairman Ballinger, Mandy Ballinger, led the bill this time, and she named it after him. And
Wow.
so they got it moving. The Democrats, of course, pitched a ever-loving fit. And
Oh, yeah.
there was a 2-hour debate, and even some of the Democrats got tired of the debate. They would come in. We have a little room off to the side called the Annie Room. It's got snacks in it. Obviously, I ate snacks, but we'd all just go in there, sit for a while, and talk about football or baseball, and then we go back out. But it got pretty acrimonious, and they were yelling and screaming, "Oh, this is going to be awful." You know, it's like I tell people: guns don't kill people; people kill people.
It's a people problem.
It's a people problem. It's evil in people's hearts.
Right.
Guns. You know, and I grew up in a gun culture. My uncle is from Chatsworth, and he was hunting every weekend, hunting fox or hunting something every weekend, and hunting food for the families. That's what my family back in Murray County, back in the mountains, you hunt for meat and you hunt for pelts a lot of times. You make clothing out of it. But most people that own guns are peace-loving, good, decent people. They're not out to hurt anybody. They just want to exercise the rights that our forefathers gave us.
Well, I think the gun narrative always gets shrouded in the fact that they just jumble everything together. They put the criminals in with the gun people, and it becomes a big
But
mess.
the 2A people are people that, if you went to their house, they're God-loving,
Sure.
God-fearing people, and they're not hurting anybody.
Well, and this is, I'm speaking myself personally, but one of the reasons why I got into this whole debate over guns, because I haven't been a gun nut my entire life, but was because of Senate Bill 201 and that a few years ago. And I was almost laughed at by our constituents because they were like, "This is Georgia. Like, what do you think is going to happen? Your gun rights are protected." And here we are several years later, and we're faced with some of the most draconian legislation, even federally.
Yeah.
So I think it was important that people stood up, and I know that it kind of creates a little bit of a rift with our government, but they must see that we have to push this.
And I've said this, and you know, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to get it. Now, sometimes I'll get up and race unmitigated hell, but most of the time I'm not as loud. That doesn't mean that in private meetings we don't have very spirited discussions about this stuff and say, look. And I believe if you got a First Amendment right, you should be able to exercise your Second Amendment right too. It's no difference. And we let people, of course, our First Amendment rights are under attack now.
Right.
Our churches are under attack.
Everything.
And everything's like that under attack. But people that own guns, they know how to use them, but for the most part, some people buy guns and they never touch them again. I bought one to carry, to keep with me, a smaller 9 last year, a Hellcat. So I went to the range over
Springfield, right?
Yeah, Springfield, a Hellcat, a little Hellcat. So my friend Ralph Brown told me, he said, this would be a perfect gun for your hand size or whatever. So I went to the range and learned to use it. I mean, learning how that gun, because guns are different. They feel different in your hand. They operate different. The trigger pulls are different.
Right.
And so get familiar with the gun, know how it works, know how to take it apart, and the
Responsible gun owners.
And I don't see gun owners. They don't go in stores and rob people. Criminals rob people, and guns. There are guns available through the black market. I mean, and they take off the serial numbers and do that kind of stuff.
And where are the biggest vulnerabilities are gun-free zones, right?
Yeah.
And it's even written in their manifestos and things. Oh, well, I'm choosing to go to so-and-so because it's a gun-free zone.
Well, a lot of churches now, people carry.
Yes, and
sometimes,
let that be a reminder to everybody.
Yeah,
The churches now have security, especially in the 14th district. So.
Yeah, in Dade County, I had dinner last night with some of my high school buddies. We're getting kind of old, so we try to get together once in a while because we don't know how many of us are going to be left. And when I was talking about, he was doing security yesterday at his church. It was a big church in the 14th district. But they switch out and do security because you have to now.
Right.
And we've had times where people try to get in churches and kill people, and it's it's a 2A person that stops it. And I don't think any of us want to kill anybody
Right.
with our guns,
No.
but we want to protect our
No,
family.
It's all about the right.
I had a church meeting one night, and so on the back of my house, I have a room in the back of it, and I go down there, and I was watching Monday Night Raw. I confess, I watched Monday Night Raw. I hadn't watched it lately because it didn't be as good, but
Right.
but somebody tried to get in the back door of my house, and I had a Henry 44 big boys sitting over on the love seat over the other side of the room. So I get that thing and I cock it, and I tell the guy on the other side of the door, I said, I'm fixing to fire through the door. He goes, so I called the police. I went up through the house and called the police, and he saw a guy up on the road. He said, yeah, I saw a guy with his hands up like this, screaming, running through the woods. The guy was afraid I was going to shoot him. And
Well,
yeah, that is that. And I never have had a problem
there
again.
you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like I say, gun people, they try to portray people who believe in the Second Amendment as being yahoos. Some of the smartest people you ever find.
Sure.
Maybe
I mean,
they're not the
you
most.
know,
Yeah.
it I get tired of the word gun nut,
Yeah.
you know, all
Yeah.
the time
They're
because
not nuts.
only because go back to the old Japan War. Behind every blade of grass, there's a gun in America, right? Doesn't mean that we're gun crazy. What it means is that, you know, we're not going to end up like Australia. We're not going to end up like China. That we are here. This is our last line of defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important people understand, especially as we move forward in this political climate
Yeah.
and how much we are under attack. I mean, I'm sitting here now as they're trying to demonize the entire Republican establishment as
Yeah.
extremists, as white supremacists.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
ridiculous.
I've been called that quite a few times. I ought to patent it and draw
I
royalties
know.
off that.
I know.
I've gotten called that in this race, but it's just like we have to stand up and say enough and draw
Enough
a line.
is enough.
Enough is
Right.
enough, and draw a line and say that, you know, because we did some really conservative things. I have probably 15. We have 16, I think now, freshmen in the House, and we passed some pretty conservative things this year. We passed a bill to outlaw CRT in schools.
Right.
And we were working on, I was co-sponsor of a couple of bills to try to get boys out of girls' sports, and they weren't moving anywhere. And the governor's floor leader came up to me on the last night of session. He said, what do you think about this? Let's put something in the CRT bill and have the Senate sent back over. And so he went one side, and I went to the other side and started talking. I said, guys, we're going to pull one. And so about 11:30, Will Wade, who was the primary sponsor of that bill, Will got up and said, we made a few technical changes to this CRT bill. He didn't call it CRT bill, but it had like 8 or 9 things, hate things that you can't teach in schools anymore.
Right.
So he said, we made a couple of technical changes, and I asked for favorable consideration. And so he sat down, and we opened the machines to vote. The speaker goes, the clerk will open the machines. And so we started voting, and Park Cannon, who was the girl that banged on the governor's door last year when we passed the election bill, she goes, boys can't play girls' sports. That's not fair. Has everyone voted? The clerk will lock the machines. And it was over, and it was done. And,
Right.
because women, and this is a women's rights bill, really.
Right.
Because women train their whole life, young girls train their whole lives for swimming or track or gymnastics or whatever. And they have some boy that's bigger, stronger, faster come in, and it's not really, it's a moral issue too. You're playing God.
It's a idiocracy.
It is.
I mean, when you get down to it, and Pete, they tell you to trust the science, and you're trying to say that men can have babies and that and men can compete against women. I mean, where is the logic and the reason in
There's
that?
no logic. You're getting away the fundamental reason of God. God
Yes.
created men. He created women.
Yes.
He didn't create. I've heard stories from schools within the 14th district where someone was one sex in one classroom, and then the next one they were back with their other opposite sex, and it was going back and forth, and people don't know what they are.
Oh Lord.
Gender fluid, I think that's
And
what they call it.
and that just this is where we're at as
it
a
is.
society, and it's scary.
We kind of walked away from God.
Yet we have walked away from God.
Yeah.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, I follow a guy from Russia. He was originally from Russia, Alexander Solzhenitsyn, and he was in prison in the gulags for years, and he wrote a book, and finally they kicked him out because he was so honorary. They couldn't kill him, so they kicked him out. But he came over here, and people thought, oh, in the 70s, he's going to tell us how great we are. And he goes, the West has forgotten God. And that's been 45 years ago. Yeah. And we've got to get back to where we were.
I agree. I do.
Because
agree.
when I was a kid, we didn't lock the doors. You didn't lock your doors because you didn't have to worry about somebody breaking in your house.
I mean, it's the culture's changed.
Yeah.
Everything's changed. The family's changed.
Yeah.
Family's now evil. It's
Yeah.
destroying.
All the
fabric.
things you see in television now is it's just they're throwing garbage at you.
Yes.
And young people don't know because they've never seen anything else. They see this and that's what they think is right.
So everybody out here knows, and I told you, censorship,
Yeah.
shadow banning, all of these things.
Yeah.
So we're here, we're just having this discussion,
Yeah.
and it's so hard. We have to jump through hoops to get this out. And I don't know if you keep up with Madonna, but she
try not
released
to.
an NFT last week where it had a lot of nudity and things that were just coming out of
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
That anyway, the point of it is the Instagram where she released it. They banned her video for it, that it was indecent, and these people are going nuts
Yeah.
over the fact that this is free speech and why are you banning this and this is and I'm sitting here going, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So now these people are outraged because a video like that can't be seen. It's indecent. But here we are, and I have to watch everything that I do and say on here. because
Well, back
it's-
when I was a kid, if my mom caught
Yeah.
me even getting close to the Sears and Roebuck catalog, I was dead.
there you go.
Or in high school,
Yeah.
the librarian. Oh, you can't look at that magazine. That's
Yes.
Time magazine.
Yes,
But
our culture.
Our culture has just gotten nuts, and we've gotten so far out of kilter.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at the point now. We're at the tipping point where we're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our culture and our lives.
Yes.
And I've told you, we can disagree on issues, but like Ronald Reagan used to say, if you agree with somebody 80%, they're your friend and your
Right.
ally. And you can work through it. We talk.
Sure.
We've got to talk with each other, not at each other.
That's the whole point. We're not enemies, and
We're not
and
enemies.
None of these people, these people that have been interviewed are enemies. We all have to wake up together and move along together, no
Yeah.
matter what.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, and because I get labeled as a rhino, and I'm a rhino and I'm an extremist, depending on the person you talk to. And I'm not a rhino. The American Conservative Union. I don't know if you're familiar with CPAC.
I am a little bit.
Okay, CPAC grades all of us legislators, and this year I got I got a letter from them wanting me to come to CPAC, but I got 80. If you get a score of 80 with CPAC, you're considered a conservative. I'm a 90.
Okay.
And Steve Tarvin's a 90.
Right.
And the only thing that kept me from being higher, we got a man in the legislature, the first name's Wayne, and Wayne's a double amputee, and he wanted a bill passed last year that would help people like him at the gas station. I thought, he's a halfway decent. He's a Democrat, but he's a halfway decent. I'm going to vote for this. That one bill, they counted off for me right up then, like a lot higher. But I didn't know. But I won't make that mistake again. But today I got an email or a text from the America's Prosperity. I rate an A with them. So
Well,
and
I'll put it this way. We had this talk, I believe it yesterday, but like, for example, I get inundated with the Stacey Abrams stuff.
Yeah.
There was one, and I couldn't get to the phone in time. It was there, but I was driving.
Yeah.
So I'm listening to it, and she's making this passionate speech about Medicaid for all and this and that. Why can't we do this? And to hear it, I thought that's not a bad message of what she's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, but saying it in front of people is one thing, but if you look at the dark money that comes along with the programs that she's trying to implement, they're completely 180 from that.
And having been in the insurance program, I was around a program called TennCare in Tennessee
Right, yeah.
when it came, and it was 20 years. I was around it 20 years before I left Blue Cross, and it sounds wonderful, but a lot of these programs. Medicaid is kind of like a crock pot. It pays low and slow. I mean, and a lot of people get hung up trying to get benefits out of Medicaid, and it's not good.
Right.
And it just becomes a problem. And it sounds good, and we want to help people, but once you get into something like that, a lot of times people never get off of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the Democrats, right? Anybody, I don't know how anybody in the right mind could even associate with the the party, which has been hijacked completely.
Yeah.
But the problem that so many of us are looking at is that we have the Democrat Party over here and the Republican Party, but there's only moving one way. The Republicans seem to be giving up more and more and incremental, and the Democrats just keep taking. And it's hard to, bring up the bill that you said. You want to try to find the good in people.
Yeah.
But then not only would you get punished for that, but
Yeah.
these people are almost impossible to seems to work with.
They are. They're really impossible. On most of the bills that we passed this year, we got no Democrat support. A Democrat, like last year with the election bill, there were Democrats that contributed to that bill, but they don't have their name on it because they had to deal with Stacey Abrams.
Exactly.
And they get it, but in public, they're not going to do that. They hover together. They'll vote on bills, and it got to the point this year we would pass a bill, and then somebody would stand up immediately and go, "What's your motion? You want to make a motion?" Yeah, I want a motion for reconsideration. They would reconsider bills over and over, even though they knew they were going to lose the vote. They were going to reconsider. They were going to tie as much time up, use every procedure they could to try to slow down things. And,
Bureaucracy.
yeah, and there's the bills. Some of the bills that come out are you have to look at them. On crossover day, we have a day called crossover where bills have to be crossed over from the House to the Senate or Senate to the House to be considered for passage. And what happened? We had some bills that just were wonky bills. We had a bill I voted against. It came out of the Republican caucus. It said that the salary for House and Senate members would be 50% of the median income in Georgia. Well, that sounds awful good, but it's right now the salary at the time was $17,300, and that was going to make it $36,000. And so there's a constitutional amendment going to be on the ballot in November. I voted against that. Mm-hmm. How can I vote for a pay raise like that when maybe you can't afford your gas to go to work or buy milk for your babies? I just can't do that. And there's a movie tax credit, which is I voted against the movie tax credit this year because not only they're imparting their values here, but we're giving them, and we do get revenue back from them. I'm not saying it's total, but we're giving such tax credits that they're huge. And they can trade, and people don't know this, you can take a movie tax credit and trade it like a commodity. Like if Mike Cameron has a tax credit and you want to make a movie, I can sell it to you and make a profit.
Mm-hmm. That's
and
what I'm hearing.
We need to close that up. Also, music tax credit. The tax credit for music was 15%. Next year it was going to be 20%, and within 5 years it's going to be 30%. And I said, I can't vote for that.
That's
I told somebody the other night. I said, Johnny Cash didn't need that to make Walk the Line, and I said John Wayne didn't need that to make The Searchers. Mm-hmm. And I understand you need certain things for business to thrive, but you can't give away the store.
No, you absolutely can't. And some people over Disney, for example, and people finding out that they were basically their own little country there, and then they're going to be responsible for billions and billions. It's going to hurt the taxpayers, and if you're trading your entire culture and your society for money, it might be okay to let that money go because it's far more detrimental the way we're going.
Yeah, because Atlanta, you see,
Atlanta's the new Hollywood.
Yeah, Atlanta's new Hollywood, and it's exploded. I remember Atlanta 50 years ago. I'm old enough to remember, and it was big, 500,000 people, but it just all of a sudden exploded.
Yeah,
and those people are moving in, and they think you're odd if you believe in what we believe up here.
Sure, and not to mention that. We can talk about this. I'm not going to put you on the spot or anything, but I think Georgia will number one will be one of the most contested states of the union this year. But I think the big thing on everybody's mind is the governor, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, and there's a huge fear that Stacey Abrams potentially could be our governor. So, how do you feel about that? And
number one, I would never want Stacey Abrams to be governor of anything.
Course.
But I'll go back and tell you something that a lot of people don't know. I ended up on the governor's endorsement list, and it's not that I like Brian Kemp and we get along well. Mm-hmm. But what I told his staff was this: I can't put my name on the endorsement list when people up here are upset about the election. Mm-hmm. So I took my name off, which I caught some grief, not necessarily from him, but from other people.
Sure.
But I thought that was the right thing to do. Yeah. I don't need to be endorsing. I've endorsed one candidate this year, a guy running for labor. It's a friend of mine. Because labor, if anybody's tried to get unemployment, it's a train wreck.
It is a huge train wreck.
It's a huge train wreck. But besides that, I'm staying in my lane, in my race, and staying away from everybody else.
Sure. The whole election, and we're not talking about election fraud here. Yep. We're talking about irregularities, and we're in it's 2 years after the 2020 election, and I can't help but to show a little bit of disdain for people that I'm not saying that believe that the election was fraudulent, but can't after, like, for example, 2,000 Mules just came out. We've got all of these pushes. We know that there was irregularities, but to have our government just completely blatantly come out and say you're crazy, you know, there is no. I mean, all I want is just somebody to say it's questionable, you know. But
and I have, because you look at these drop boxes, which you should have never done drop boxes.
Yes, and it's on the ballot still.
Yeah.
When I voted, it's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot.
And I'm
okay. Let me go back to 2000, before I got elected, 2020, when they did the agreement with Stacey Abrams. They did the consent agreement. So the Secretary of State negotiated it, and the Attorney General signed it. They didn't go to the governor, they didn't go to the lieutenant governor, didn't go to the speaker or the House and Senate. They just implemented that, and so that became a mess. And then the Secretary of State met with on Zoom with our Republican congressional delegation, and Jody Heiss has told me this story. But they said, please don't send out ballot applications to all these people. He said, I'll consider it. Then when he had to testify before Government Oversight Committee in Washington, he said, yeah, I'd already done that 2 weeks before. And that just kills me, because and 2 years ago, I had almost no money, and I almost got buried by a former incumbent because people knew his name.
Right.
And all these ballots went out. My uncle Stoney over in Chatsworth died in 2015. And he got a ballot. And I didn't find out about it until later because my aunt threw it away. But I'd have gotten that ballot, I would have taken it down there.
Sure.
And Molly Hemingway, who's on Fox News, she works at a group called The Federalist. And Molly wrote a book called Rigged last year. She talked about Mark Zuckerberg put $29 million into Georgia, most of it with Democrats. They basically set this thing up, and they had, I think they harvested ballots. I can't prove it because I wasn't out there, and but I think they harvested ballots and brought them out. So that's why we reduced the number of boxes and we put them in the election office. Like if you go across the street here to the courthouse, that box is inside, and every day it has to be emptied. We have to say there's 53 ballots that came in today.
Right.
And you set those ballots aside for election day, and you'll open them then. But no one has access to it. As soon as they lock that door at whatever time, 5 o'clock, nobody has access to that box, and they shouldn't. But everybody has a box. They have a mailbox, and you can drop a ballot. But I think the absentee ballots are going to be way down this year.
They will, I believe. And you also remember, you know, of course, Atlanta is split up into 5 counties. So when you just look at those simple facts from a logical standpoint, it's easy to think. And of course, we were all awake the night. I was awake during the election, watching the State Farm Arena shut down for the water leak and all these. You know,
I fell. Old guy like me, I fell asleep.
That's when I call it in Dallas, and something's not right here. So they're shutting down the arena for a water leak.
And people have watched it. People I know have watched that film, so there's nothing wrong. But they know how. After the 2018 election, when they thought that we cheated them, they went to work to figure all this out, and they work every day. And that's the problem. No, that's okay. That's the problem we have with the Republican Party in Georgia. People like to go and get their picture made, like to go to parties. You know, I'm an old meat and potatoes. I'm a grinder. And you know, when I was chairman of the party in 2018, I was on the road every day. I would come in down at the office. Nancy Burton worked with me. I don't know if you remember Miss Nancy.
Yes.
And we would talk about what we're going to do, and then I'd load up the car with whatever I'm going to do. And I take off and go hammer signs or go to meetings or whatever. But you know, I don't care about the pageantry of the party. It's about getting good candidates elected to office and taking our ideas and moving forward.
Right.
And a lot of people just don't like to do that anymore. And it's sweat. You know, in my campaign, for example, I probably put 10,000 miles on my car since March. Because I'm back and forth across 136. They're going to name it Cameron Highway. But I get out and go to places. You know, the other night I got criticized. I went to a fish fry. They said, Cameron, all you do is eat. I'm like, well, people invite me to places, I go eat. But we've got to get out and do the basic work. You know, people want to run for office or want to do something and skip that whole process. You got to learn. It's kind of like playing baseball. You got to learn how to catch the ball. You got to learn how to hit the ball. And that's it's not glamorous. I mean,
no.
You know, my hand right now, I can't hardly close it because I'll hit it with. I have a 3-pound hammer in the car, and if I miss hitting the rebar with my hammer, I hit these fingers, and I've missed. You know, but you get covered in mud. You get literally, and you cover a lot of ground. You eat a lot of turkey sandwiches from gas stations and things like that. But we got to get back to the fundamentals of working hard. The Democrats are working as much as I dislike the message and just like what they're doing, they're working
Right.
every day.
Well,
They're on
give you a
text.
good example after the election, the Leffler-Purdue runoff.
Yeah.
I got really criticized, man, and no, I don't hold anybody accountable, but in the groups that I was with, because they were like, oh, Leffler-Purdue, they're gonna make it. They're gonna.
Yeah.
I said, no, they're not. What do you mean they're not? No, you're crazy, man. There's no way. I said they're not gonna make it. I said Stacey Abrams had she had got registered 77,000 new voters between the election and that runoff election. I said, what has changed on the Republican side since the election?
And a lot of our people,
Nothing.
360,000 people didn't come back to vote.
They
And,
didn't. There's legitimacy to that. You know, there is.
And I'll give you a Walker County example. I thought after as disgusted as I was with the presidential election being over, because I'd been out there working, because we didn't have signs up here.
Right.
We didn't have signs, and so we found out there's a guy down in Walton County, a guy named James Cooper, had all the signs down there, and the Republican Party in Georgia wasn't getting them out. So I took a guy with a pickup truck and went 2 days in a row. And we brought back thousands of Trump signs. We had Trump, women for Trump, blacks for Trump, all these signs, and then the big signs, and we brought them back, and they got distributed out. But we didn't have signs, and people weren't putting. So I went out. I thought after my race, I was worn out,
Right.
and I thought I'll have some time to take a break this fall. But I had to get out and start hammering signs every morning. So I load the car up with Trump signs and go. I put Trump signs out.
Right.
Then after the election, then the runoff started. I thought now I'm going to have some time to rest and I'll enjoy Christmas. And I got a call from the Senate committee, McConnell's committee. Nancy put them on to me and said, "Mr. Cameron, can you help us? We've knocked on 13,000 doors, but we can't get anybody to vote." So I was out working like a mad dog, setting up. I helped set up fly-ins and all these things. And I think you were at some of the events. Y'all came.
I have been.
Yeah, y'all come to some of the events and worked our tails off. And then I went down on the night before the runoff to Dalton. I took a friend of mine from Dade County wanted to go, who's a big Trump person, and so we went and got a seat. The place was packed, 25,000 people at the airport. It was incredible. But a lot of those people came from out of town, and they were flying to.
Oh, you're talking about the Trump rally?
The Trump rally.
Oh yeah, I was actually one of the what you call it? We had the tags and everything.
Yeah.
We were helping. We were helpers.
Yeah, you
It
were
was
helpers.
cool. Mhm.
So, but Mark Meadows came out. And I wish
That was
I wish that I would have brought it in. Mark gave me I've got a brass coin from his office. He said, "Man, I appreciate what you've done." I said,
Right.
You're trying. You're at least trying, and so I keep that as a reminder. And it was frustrating. The January 5th was frustrating, and you see these guys that are basically avowed Marxists. These are Marxists. These aren't liberal Democrats like we used to have back in the olden days.
You're right.
And they're going to Congress representing us, or the Senate, and they haven't done anything for us.
Yeah, and that's another thing. And you don't have to elaborate on Marjorie. I'm getting feedback from people, and I'm going to do my own little live stream about how she is too radical for the Republican Party. And I'm
Yeah.
like, at this moment in time, when you really weigh the options here, you're talking about one woman who's really just kicking and screaming every step of the way.
Mhm.
Versus all of these Democrat
Yeah.
Marxists, these liberal,
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. It's about time we started.
Well, it's almost like back in the old biblical days when you had a prophet stand up and start screaming.
Right.
Or Noah. Noah's
Mhm.
like, it's going to rain.
Mhm.
It ain't going to rain.
Yep.
Make another bologna sandwich.
Ah.
And then one
Right,
day
I'm
it
glad you
rains.
said that
Yeah.
because I've said it so many times. Up here, we live in one of the most conservative areas in the United States, and we're up here and we're kind of in our own little echo chamber because we see all these things happening and we know food shortages, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But we go outside and the birds are chirping.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to do these interviews is because I want people to be engaged. I want them to go out and vote. And I talk to people every day that's like, I've never voted in my life. I don't want to vote.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, but I get it because
Yeah,
I
you got
feel, I can feel that, especially after what we've been through. But we cannot throw in the towel. We cannot give up.
I've been voting for 45 years. Okay, I'm almost 63,
Right.
and I've won some elections. I've lost some elections with candidates,
Mm-hmm.
and you gotta keep believing, and you gotta keep
You have
doing.
to.
Because if you don't, then it just becomes
It's almost like you don't have a choice, though.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
And I think more people, especially now, I believe that more people are awakened to the fact that, and there is validity to what you said, that a lot of people didn't come out and vote. Even though I believe there's more to the story than that. But
Yeah.
however, this is the time. This primary is the time to vote your conscience.
Yeah,
right?
it is.
Is to get out and vote for who you want to see, right?
Yeah.
And really and make it happen.
Yeah.
And then once we get through the primary, we'll see where we stand and how we can unite everybody together. You know.
Well, it's like after I won in the runoff, and Marjorie won in the runoff, we had a uniting rally down in Rome one morning. And so I get there, and of course it's early, and I hadn't had any caffeine. I get there, and Daryl Galloway, the 14th District Chairman, says, "Mike, you're on in 5 minutes." I'm like, "Do what?" So I get up and I give a pretty thunderous speech, and I looked at the folks and I said, "We need to reelect Donald J. Trump, and we need to elect to the 14th District Marjorie Taylor Greene." And place, interrupted, but you have to do that. You've got to unite. You've got to unite people together.
And this is my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not a Kemp supporter at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Not a Brian Kemp supporter at all.
understand.
My hands may arthritis when I have to touch that
Yeah.
button. However, I know the need. No matter what happens, if he is the front runner
Yeah.
and my candidate doesn't make it there,
Yep.
we have to unite and
Well,
support.
you have in wrestling they call it doing the honors. And,
Yeah.
you got to do the honors, and sometimes you have to
With
put.
far too much at stake.
Yeah, and I don't know. It gets down in the Secretary of State's race. If the current Secretary of State's there, I don't know. Yeah, that's going to be hard.
Well, I said this yesterday, and this is me talking together, but we're just talking candidly. But if Brad Raffensperger makes it through this primary, then I don't know how. I mean, we all should give up.
Well,
Nobody's
I'll
gonna
tell-
make it.
Yeah,
you know.
but I'll tell you,
don't
the Democrat that they're touting is a lady that sat next to me in the House.
Yes.
B. Wynn.
Mhm.
She's a Vietnamese lady from Iowa,
Okay.
and I'm gonna tell you, she gets to be Secretary of State. Katie Bardor, she's out there. I mean, I sat next to her and Renita Shannon, who's running for secretary or running for lieutenant governor, and then I had Republicans on my right, and I mean, way out there.
Really.
Yeah, way out
Now
there.
it's Jody Heiss, right? That's
Jody
right.
Heiss.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jody's a good guy. He's
I would have liked to have had the time to get him out here.
yeah,
so.
yeah.
But yeah.
because he was in Dalton a couple weeks ago. I ran down right quick and talked to him a little bit, and I've talked to him at other places before, and he's a good guy. He
I
he wants to do.
I think he's the front runner on the Republican side,
Well,
right? Pretty
well,
much.
he's pretty. They're tight.
Are they?
Raffensperger's spending a lot of money. He owns a manufacturing company, so he's spending a lot of money in
Gotcha.
Atlanta. That's what he did last time. He didn't come up here as much. He spent a lot of his money in Atlanta and getting the moderate vote, the Atlanta vote, and so we'll have to see. I'm just interested in how it all shakes out.
Right. It's gonna be. I think honestly. I mean, this is a historic primary.
I think it is.
really
I think it is. And from what I understand, President Trump has kind of distanced himself from David
Purdue. Yeah, he's pulled away from Purdue, and
So
what's so funny about that is he has had 55 candidates that he supported that have actually made it through their primaries, but yet the media focuses on this one,
Yeah,
and they're just
yeah.
painting it all over the place.
Oh, I know.
So
I know.
one-sided, but.
I know I quit watching a lot of TV.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of
Yeah.
Chicago Fire and Chicago PD reruns.
Right, you have to. You
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
buy into
yeah,
it.
yeah, you can't. But
So we're gonna wrap up here in a few minutes. Let me check the comments out and see. Okay, well, we didn't get any more comments tonight,
okay.
but
I'm sorry if I'm boring.
No. This has been a good one, and it just happens. I try to
Okay.
get it out.
Okay. But,
We're gonna post it everywhere.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
anything that you would like to say to the voters
Yeah.
out there?
You know, one of the things that I don't think I talked about much tonight is not only do we work in Atlanta, but we work here. I work here probably more than we work our 40 days in Atlanta, but I don't come home and just hit the couch. I deal a lot with constituents. I work with people that have issues and problems, trying to get them the help and be the bridge for them. And this job's not about me. I don't have family, okay? You guys are my family, and I want to help. I don't care 10, 15 years from now if people don't remember my name, but if something I did makes a difference in this community or one of the other communities like Dade County, that's what it's all about. It's not about me being powerful or me being this big.
Right.
Because, I worked in the corporate world. I've been there, done that. Yeah, it's not worth anything. It's about helping our families and helping our communities. in Dade County, we were able to get a grant. Some people don't like grants, but we were able to get a grant because kids in Dade County have a hard time with internet service. Some of them go to McDonald's to get to do their homework, do their research papers, and we got a grant. They're going to be able to build out the fiber optics in Dade County so people have internet. Those kind of things are the kind of things that make a difference in people's lives that you forget about, and that's okay. You do these things and you forget about it and let it be, but you try to make a difference in the community. When you see there's a hole, today we got a grant from the federal government for brownfields. We have brownfields in Walker County, places like the mill in Rossville, for example, that may have asbestos or something. And what this grant's going to do is allow somebody to come in and evaluate those properties and say, hey, here's what you got, and here's how you fix it. Not to beat them over the head, not to be a property owner or a business owner over the head, but say, here's this will help you long term. If you want to fix your property, if you want to build something on it, you've got this chemical that's been leached into and you need to do this to be able to fix it. I try to find solutions to help people and be a helper. It's about helping people and about reflecting our views. And sometimes I get it wrong in Atlanta. And I'm human just like anybody else.
And people forget that.
And my intent is to help people. And my intent is to reflect the values of the people that I represent. I don't go down there and hang out with big cats and go to dinner. A lot. I could go to dinner every night with somebody, but I 3 or 4 a year, and that's enough for me. I take Cracker Barrel and a good NCIS rerun any day. But to try to make a difference in this community, and like again, it's not about me. It's not about me being something. It's about me being able to help people and being a resource for people. People that can't get their unemployment or they can't get help from DFACS. Or I had a gentleman call me and. Not long ago, he had a friend that was kicked out of the hospital in Chattanooga, had his leg amputated for diabetes, didn't have a place to live. And I said, God, how do I help this person? And I ended up calling a group in Rome that they were able to hook me up with some resources to help this man. Sometimes I'm somebody's last resort. And but I spend a lot of my time out in the communities. I try to be in Dade and Walker every week somewhere. Like Dade this Saturday has something, they have an event to highlight that we need to deal with overdoses. Fentanyl right now, that's something that I go back, is fentanyl, we've got to deal with fentanyl because fentanyl's become such a big issue. We have 100,000 overdose deaths in the country, and 85% of them are opioid based. And you see this probably, your dad probably sees it in the bail bonds business. We put people in jail with mental issues or drug issues. And we've got to be able, you got to punish people if they committed crimes, but also you got to get them clean and get them back to be productive citizens in the community. They have a court over in Dade County. It's for parents that don't pay their child support, to teach them how to be responsible because they may have never learned from somebody, and get them out there and let them understand this is how it works. And instead of putting them in jail, let them pay their child support off.
No, I agree.
So,
there's mental issues though, like you wouldn't believe nowadays. And they need. There's some things that need to be addressed.
Exactly. So that's part of the job. It's not just being a legislator. It's being somebody out in the community. If you stop me in a grocery store or in a restaurant or
We've always been approachable.
I want to be approachable. I answer my phone. One last thing I'll tell you is I got a call 2 weeks ago. I was watching Finding Bigfoot. I watched Finding Bigfoot. I'm admitting that in the public.
Gotcha.
And somebody called me and said, over in Big Canoe, Georgia, which is not in my district, we've got 3 baby bears. Their mama's dying, and we need help to be able to get them to a bear rescue. So I ended up I called DNR on Sunday night. I said, look, here's the situation. Here's the people's number. And we saved these 3 bears and sent them to, but I never know from one day to the next what I'm going to get involved in. It could be somebody needing help. Sometimes Medicaid tries to take people's property to cover the Medicaid debt. And we've been able to stop a couple of people from losing their houses like that. And you do things like that, my intent is to help people and strengthen the communities. Because if we don't strengthen our communities, we're going to be gone.
And absolutely correct. The community's got to come together.
So that's why I want to go back to the legislature, and I appreciate your vote and support tomorrow. I know a lot of people have been out early voting. I've been hearing a lot.
It's been a lot of people.
There have been.
But you know what? If you haven't went and voted, tomorrow is the day. So stop what you're doing and go out there and be the change you want to see. Vote your conscience, and let's move this thing forward. Okay.
Yep. And thanks for the time.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate it.
Oh,
man.
anytime. I
Always.
appreciate you. You're fair-minded, and I appreciate it.
All right, folks. I probably will be coming back with analysis about 10 o'clock tonight. Got a few things to cover. People have been talking to me, so I'll do a live stream myself, and then we'll get ready for primary tomorrow. We'll see you guys
Thanks,
later.
guys.